Okay, let's dive in. Today we're really getting into a topic that, well, it hits close to home for pretty much everyone, I think. Judging others. It's one of those really challenging parts of, living out faith in relationships. We all bump up against this one. We've been working with some really insightful material on this, a document that focuses specifically on the biblical angle. So our goal here is to really understand the foundations. Why does the Bible call us away from judging? We'll look at teachings from Jesus, from the apostles, and try to figure out why this matters so much to God, and maybe more practically, what does it actually look like day to day? So yeah, let's explore this together.
It's interesting. The material starts right where you'd expect, the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 7, verses 1 and 2. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. You know the passage. It's foundational.
Right, everyone knows that one.
Right.
But what does judge really mean there? Because we have to make judgments all the time, don't we?
Exactly. And the document clarifies this. The Greek word used, krino. It's not about shutting down all discernment. We're still meant to be wise. Remember Matthew 10.16. Wise as serpents, innocent as doves. That still applies. But krino here, it's more specific. It implies condemning, passing a final sentence almost, making this ultimate call on someone's character, maybe even their eternal destiny.
Okay, so it's that level of judgment, the condemning kind.
Precisely. That's what we're warned against.
And that bit about you will be judged in return. The material mentioned a kind of spiritual law. What's that about?
Yeah, it suggests this principle in God's kingdom, like how we approach others directly affects our own experience, especially perhaps how we experience God's judgment or even just life circumstances. It's like a spiritual echo. If you put out harsh condemnation, well, you might find that coming back at you.
Makes you think.
And Luke's version, chapter 6, verse 37, it makes the alternative really explicit. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. And then this part, forgive, and you will be forgiven.
Oh, wow. So it connects judgment directly to forgiveness.
Exactly. The opposite of judging isn't just neutrality. It's active forgiveness, grace. Luke shows that progression. Stop judging, then stop condemning, and then start forgiving. It's a definite shift towards grace.
That progression really helps. Stop the negative, start the positive. But, why is this so hard? It feels like we're constantly evaluating people. It's almost natural.
It does feel natural, you're right. And Paul in Romans 2, he really gets to the heart of why our human judgment is so, well, flawed. He says, verse 1, you have no excuse, for at whatever point you judge another, you condemn yourself because you do the same things.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a powerful insight. We judge from this position of being, fellow sinners. We share the same basic fallen nature. And the irony, which the source points out, is that judging others often just shows our own issues, our own blind spots.
Like the speck in the log idea.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
We're so busy looking outward, we miss the self-examination that we really need for our own growth and healing.
And then there's the whole issue of simply not knowing everything, right? We can't see inside someone's head or heart.
Precisely. We just don't have the full picture. Remember 1 Samuel 16.7. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That's the key distinction.
Yeah.
All we ever see is the surface, their actions, their words. But what's underneath? Think about it. Their background, their childhood, hidden health problems, mental health struggles, family stress, spiritual battles we know nothing about.
So much we don't see.
Right. And judging based on that incomplete external data, it's just not fair.
Yeah.
Often it's flat out wrong. Plus, we can't see the trajectory. We don't know how God is working quietly in their life. Change is often gradual, internal, invisible to us for a long time.
Okay, so if we're flawed, limited, and basically told not to do that kind of final judging, then who can? Who gets to be the judge?
Well, James nails this, chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. He says, there was only one lawgiver and judge, but you, who are you to judge your neighbor?
Only one, God.
Yes. Ultimately, judgment is a divine role. It belongs to God alone.
And why is that? What makes God uniquely qualified?
The source lays it out clearly. First, perfect knowledge. God sees everything, knows everything, omniscient. Second, perfect righteousness. His standard is flawless. Third, he has a sovereign authority. Plus, he's omnipresent, sees it all, and has an eternal perspective we completely lack.
So when we judge like that, we're kind of...
Yeah, the material suggests we're sort of usurping God's role, trying to sit in his seat. It's almost like a form of idolatry, claiming something that's his alone.
Wow, never thought of it that way.
And there's another difference. God's judgment, while absolutely real, is also connected to his mercy and his redemptive plans. our judgments. Often they come from less noble places, right?
Right.
Pride, maybe insecurity, sometimes it's plain anger.
Yeah, that rings true.
And Romans 14.4 reinforces it. Who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? It is before his own master that he stands or falls. We each answer to God, not to each other in that ultimate sense.
That James passage is powerful. Who are you? Puts us in our place. And you mentioned hypocrisy. The source connects judgment to masking our own stuff.
Oh, definitely. The classic example which the document uses is the woman caught in adultery. John chapter 8, you know the scene. The religious leaders bring her to Jesus, ready to stone her according to the law. They demand his judgment.
Right, it feels like a setup.
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
They weren't really concerned about justice for her. They wanted to trap Jesus.
Mm.
But his response completely flips it. Let him who is without sin among you be the first to cast a stone.
Silence.
Exactly. Because his challenge wasn't really about the severity of her sin. It exposed the universal truth. Everyone there was a sinner. Their judgment came from hearts that lacked mercy, and they even applied the law selectively. I mean, where was the man involved?
Good point.
Jesus' words stripped away their self-righteous masks. And this often comes out as what the source calls comparative righteousness. You know, that feeling of, well, okay, I sin, but my sins aren't as bad as theirs.
Oh, yeah. We all do that comparison game.
We do. But the Bible's pretty clear. All sin separates us from God. We all need grace, desperately. That phrase, the ground at the foot of the cross is level. That's it. There's no VIP section based on how good we think we are compared to someone else.
So comparing ourselves just gets in the way.
It really does. Think about the Pharisee and the tax collector parable in Luke 18. The Pharisee was all about comparing himself favorably to others, especially the tax collector. He judged constantly. The tax collector just stood there, knew he was broken, and asked for mercy.
And Jesus said the tax collector was the one who went home justified.
Right. Comparative righteousness actually pushes us away from God, admitting our shared need. That draws us to him.
Okay, so if judging, condemning, comparing, if that's the wrong path, what should we be doing? What's the positive call here?
Mercy and forgiveness. That's the biblical alternative laid out in the material.
Mercy. Define that a bit more.
It's not ignoring sin or pretending it doesn't matter. It's recognizing it for what it is, but then choosing, consciously choosing, compassion and grace instead of condemnation. Jesus was the perfect example. Think of the Samaritan woman, Zacchaeus, that woman in John 8 again. He never minimized their sin, never said it was okay.
No, he didn't.
But his response was always driven by love, by an offer of forgiveness, of a new start, of transformation. And it's important to see mercy not as like being soft or weak. The source emphasizes it requires real strength, real courage.
And it flows from knowing God's mercy to us, right?
Absolutely. You can't really give it if you haven't grasped how much you've received it.
Okay, and forgiveness, how does that fit in?
Luke 6.37 connects it directly. Remember, forgive and you'll be forgiven. The material calls forgiveness active grace. It's not just letting something go passively. It's actively choosing to release the debt, to let go of the desire for payback, and where possible, to work towards restoration instead of punishment.
That distinction feels important. It allows for accountability, maybe, but with love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not sweeping things under the rug, but it changes the goal from retribution to restoration. And it all ties back to the Lord's Prayer, doesn't it? Forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. It's fundamental. We extend what we've received.
It seems like this principle pops up everywhere once you start looking. The source mentioned it applies in lots of different contexts.
Oh, definitely. It's not just about our one-on-one interactions. Pastorally, for instance, it's about creating churches that are safe places, where people feel they can actually be honest about struggles without fearing judgment or condemnation, shepherding with gentleness.
That feels crucial.
Yeah. And psychologically, sometimes our judgments say more about us, about our own insecurities that we're projecting onto others. It's a call for self-reflection.
And missionally, how we share faith.
Huge impact.
Yeah.
Judgment pushes people away, closes doors. Mercy and understanding, that draws people in, reflects God's heart. It's essential for sharing the gospel authentically.
Okay, this is all making sense theologically, but let's bring it right down to the ground. How does this look, Monday morning? In our actual lives?
Right, the practical stuff. The material gives some great examples. Think about personal relationships, marriage, family, friendships. Judgment is like poison in those relationships. Choosing grace means trying to understand the other person's perspective even when you disagree. Focusing on fixing the problem, not winning the argument. Looking at your own contribution to the conflict.
Yeah, that's hard work.
It really is. Then, in church community, how do we build that culture of grace we talked about? It means intentionally fighting against gossip and criticism, making sure that when discipline is necessary, the goal is always restoration, not just punishment, celebrating that people are on different journeys at different stages.
And what about social media? That feels like a judgment minefield.
It really does. The source touches on how the digital age just amplifies the temptation to judge instantly and publicly. So it's about consciously deciding to interact online with grace. Yes, stand for truth, but do it reflecting Christ's character. Aim to build up or offer a different perspective, not just tear down.
That's a high bar online.
It is. And even, say, at work, avoiding the gossip mill, treating that difficult colleague with basic respect. If you're a leader, modeling non-judgment, focusing on solutions and support, instead of just blaming when things go wrong.
So it really touches every area. Why is this call, this moving away from judgment towards mercy, why is it so absolutely central to the whole Christian message? What are the deep roots?
The source connects it to some core doctrines. First and foremost, grace, God's unearned, undeserved favor. If you truly get that your standing with God is all grace, you lose the right, really, to look down on anyone else who needs that exact same grace. It levels everything. And experiencing grace should motivate us to extend it.
Makes sense. What else?
The nature of the church itself. It's not meant to be a museum for saints, right? It's a hospital for sinners. A community of forgiven people trying to figure out how to live differently, together. That requires honesty, vulnerability, mutual support, things that judgment just kills. The church exists because of grace, to be a beacon of that grace.
So judging contradicts the church's very identity.
In many ways, yes.
Wow.
Then there are eschatological reasons. Thinking about the end times, God's final judgment. Knowing that God is the ultimate judge and his timing and justice are perfect frees us. We don't have to carry the burden of making sure everyone gets what we think they deserve right now. We can trust him with the final verdict.
That's freeing.
It is. And finally, even the Trinity models this. Jesus said he didn't come to condemn the world, but to save it. The Father sent the Son out of love. The Holy Spirit convicts, yes, but to lead us to repentance and life, not just to crush us.
So God's own nature leans towards mercy.
If God operates that way, how much more should we, who are recipients of that mercy?
Wow, okay. This deep dive really clarifies things. It's not just some arbitrary rule, don't judge. It's tied into the character of God, the core of the gospel, and just the reality of who we are as human beings. It boils down to recognizing our own limits, trusting God with the ultimate judgment, and really trying to embrace grace and mercy.
Yeah, and it's definitely challenging. It cuts right against our natural inclinations, doesn't it? To criticize, to compare, to find fault. It really requires, like the source suggests, dying to that part of ourselves and leaning into God's power to help us love and forgive in ways that don't come naturally. But when we do that, it's transformative. For us and for the people around us, we actually become conduits of God's grace.
Yeah, and in a world that often feels so harsh and judgmental, choosing mercy, choosing understanding, it's such a powerful witness. It honors God and it genuinely blesses others.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to chew on, something the material hints at. If our judgments of others often reveal more about our own hidden struggles, our fears, our pride, our insecurities, than they actually do about the person we're judging, well, what might exploring that connection mean for your own journey towards extending grace more freely? Something to think about.